Hey y'all, I'm back. This is practically becoming an Indy 500 only channel. But yeah, so yesterday got rained out for the first day of Indy 500 practice. So today was effectively opening day for practice for the 107th Indianapolis 500. There was a lot of running today from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Because the first day, I believe it was scheduled to start at 9. They were going to have something like, it was a 2-hour session or something, and then a rookie orientation program, and then another, I think it was 1 to 6 was the scheduled block for practice. That all got rained out, so everything got moved to today. They kind of just threw together a schedule, which was they had everyone go out for like a 15-minute just installation lap session. And then at 10:15, from 10:15 to noon, R.C. Enerson had a rookie orientation program. So for an hour and 45 minutes, he had the track to himself. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. And then from noon to 6, the usual 6-hour Wednesday practice. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the results today. Pretty quick speeds overall. Takuma Sato was fastest overall with a 2:29.439. Second was Scott Dixon with a 2:29.174, and I'll talk about that in a second. Santino Ferrucci was third with a 2:28.977. Fourth, Alex Palou with a 2:28.720. Fifth, Scott McLaughlin with a 2:28.473. Sixth was Colton Herta with a 2:28.057. Now, one of the first things I'm going to talk about, speeds were a little bit faster than the first day of last year's practice. Takuma Sato, oddly enough, was the fastest last year with a 2:28.939 in the first day. And again, because last year obviously wasn't rained out, they got more time during that day. I believe the first session, Dixon had a 2:27.1. They were talking about that a lot. But first day of practice, up about half a mile an hour from 2:29.4 to 2:28.9. Second, oddly enough, Scott Dixon. So here's the thing. Ganassies are fast. I need to learn this. Anyway, Dixon with a 2:27.7 was last year's second place. So even then, there was a pretty big gap between Sato's fast time and everyone else's like more reasonable times. But speaking of Scott Dixon, his time from today was actually pretty crazy because it was set pretty much as soon as they went out. So in probably the third or fourth lap that Dixon had run at the Speedway since April, he put up a 2:29.1, and the lap before that was something like a 2:28.7 or something. So like he went out there with a pack of 2 or 3 cars and just set one of the fastest laps of the day right at the beginning of the day. I was interested to see if he was going to break that speed later in the day. He didn't. But I was saying most of these other times were set later in the day. There was kind of, I'd say, about hour and a half before the practice ended. So like about 4:30. Was when times really started clicking up, which is, again, when it starts to cool down. So most of these times, I mean, honestly, I think all of them were from after that point. Alex Palou had been up there a lot. He ended up obviously being fourth. I believe he had a slower time throughout most of the day instead of faster time near the end. Because for a while, I think up until around 4, Dixon was like a mile and a half quicker than everyone else on a mile, like 1 to 2 miles an hour quicker than everyone else, like up until probably 4 or 4:30, something like that. And then that's when bigger times started coming out because, again, the track's cooler, more ideal conditions. But that whole situation was interesting. As for the general running of the day, we didn't have any major incidents. There was a couple of close calls. I think, actually, Graham Rahal did hit the wall early in the practice, though he was able to get out later after taking some time to fix the car. It was just a tap, wasn't too bad. There was an incident, I don't know if I have a video of it, where Ryan Hunter-Ray had to split between 2 guys, Scott McLaughlin and Ed Carpenter, I believe, at the going into turn 3. It was pretty close for practice, especially when there was... They were all down near the left side of the track, the bottom of the track, and wide open space to the right, but, I mean, I guess he just decided he really wanted to split the gap between two cars in first practice. So that's the thing. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next thing, which I'm going to look at, which is no-toe speeds. First overall in no-toe speeds was Rinus VeeKay. Now, VeeKay wasn't particularly fast in the overall times. If I can find his time, he was 18th, the 2:25.8. But his fastest no-toe speed, and I believe this no-toe speed was his fastest time until very late in the going, but his fastest no-toe speed was a 2:23.212. Second, another Carpenter car, Ed Carpenter, with a 2:22.341. Third was Will Power with a 2:21.803. Fourth was Scott McLaughlin with a 2:21.537. Fifth was Connor Daly, 2:21.393, and sixth was Joseph Newgarden, 2:21.305. Now, you might notice a pattern up there, which is that they're all Chevys. That was a big thing throughout the day, and if I check real quick, the next fastest no-toe speed was a Honda of Kirkwood, but in general, a lot of the fastest no-toe speeds were from Chevy cars. So, I think no-toe speeds are indicative of a lot of things. First of all, just qualifying pace, which can and cannot matter the first practice of the week, but it's Wednesday, and qualifying is in, 3 days? Fast Friday's 2 days away. So it has to matter somewhat. I think there were teams that were doing kind of 4-lap average runs. I think that was more earlier in the day, but there were definitely some teams that were trying to go out for qualifying runs, and I think Chevy has kind of put their name out there, at least in that position. Though everything we have heard is that basically, with a combination of the fact the cars, you just passed something like 5th or 6th, you can't really pass very well. Qualifying ability is going to be a thing, which, it has been the past few years, but, it's the type of thing. Carpenter cars seem to always be really fast in qualifying. I think Ganassi has shown that they're generally fast in qualifying recently, which on NTS speeds, they were 8th, 9th, and 10th. Dixon, Palou, 8th and 9th with Scott Dixon and Palou, and then further down was the rest of the cars. Obviously, since it's not really to the point where teams are prioritizing quali sims yet, I don't think we've gotten the best idea of who's where, but we're beginning to get an idea with these no-toe speeds of who's going to be fast in qualifying and who's going to be able to lead, which top 6 being Chevys is no small thing, so that'll be a thing to pay attention to. And last, since we have 34 cars in the race this year, we have the return of bumping, so that is going to be a topic to follow as we go throughout this week. And down at the bottom, there was a little bit of a kind of, developing situation between a few cars. So, reading from 29th to 34th, I'm going to have this up on the screen here. 29th was Devin Lee Francesco, 2:24.5. 30th, Romain Grosjean with a 2:24.5. 31st, Catherine Legge. She's back for the first time in quite a while with a 2:24.4. 32nd, which is where I think we really started to get into the people that were having some issues today, Christian Lundgaard, 2:24.3, which I believe that Rahal last year kind of had similar issues where they were not quite having the pace in just raw speed. I think Rahal has had some issues recently at Indy, so I think that's a thing that kind of might need to be addressed at some point. And I'm sure, obviously, might need to be addressed at some point. It's their main thought right now, obviously. But especially Lundgaard, not coming from an oval background, not having near as much experience. He's fallen down there a bit. 33rd, R.C. Enerson, which in general, this is a thing I would expect. Enerson just, again, he completed his orientation today. He hasn't raced in 2 years. The team he's racing with hasn't raced ever. The car is at least 2 years old. So Enerson's not in a great spot, but wasn't terrible either. His fastest speed is a 2:24.017. And the 34th car, the as of right now bumped car, though, again, these are all draft speeds, but was a prevailing issue. 34th, Callum Ilott with a 2:23.4, 2:23.409. which this is the thing they specifically talked about on the broadcast. Ayla has not at all been happy with how his car has been performing. I mean, he's been the guy that they're saying slow car syndrome about. He had talked, even during the open test back in late April, about how he was not at all comfortable with the chassis that he had, and they were already back then considering a chassis change. So, really, depending on what we see this week, I think Ilott and Hunko Solinger could be under a considerable amount of pressure because they're not really happy with how their car is performing. I think they're just in general not in the greatest spot. Especially I think come qualifying weekend you'll probably figure more out about this, but I'd be interested to see kind of a bit of a storyline developing there later in the week. I'd be interested to see if they end up changing chassis, because they did say they have another chassis they felt might have been just as fast, if not faster, that they hadn't really done much work on at all. So that's a storyline that's going to probably continue to develop throughout this week. Let's get on to last couple of wrap-up topics. So just looking down the order right now, kind of just going to make some very beginning predictions, bad takes incoming, warning. Ganassi is going to be fast. I don't think that's too much of a hot take at this point. They were 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 7th. And at one point, with about a half an hour to go, they were 1st through 4th. So I think the way that things are going right now, Chip's going to be fast. Ganassi is going to be a threat, as they have been for quite a while now. I mean, it's been a thing in practice, at least the past 2 years, probably more than that just, Ganassi is going to be the fastest people in practice, like, every time. So, I don't think that's too much of a statement to say. I think that, as of right now, it seems like the Aero McLaren guys are kind of struggling a bit, just kind of looking at where they are in the order. I believe Rossi was their fastest car. He was 19th overall. And then Pato was right behind him in 20th. And then Kanan in 23rd and Rosenquist in 27th. So Aero McLaren's having some issues. Rahal is also having some issues with Catherine Legg and Christian Lundgaard, 31st and 32nd. Who's the other Rahal cars? Jack Harvey was 11th, so that's not too much of a thing, and Rahal was also 13th. Catherine Legg gets a bit of a pass. She hasn't raced an IndyCar in something like 10 years, so not too much of a big deal. Lundgaard's the real question for me, because, I mean, he's not even a rookie anymore. He's got at least a level of experience now. Where does that go? I'd be interested to see how well Lundgaard's able to adjust in these next few days, and if they keep having issues, or if they'll be able to recover from it. The issue is, you don't want to be down near the bottom at all when bump day comes around, because it's an issue. For a while, it was looking like Andretti was a bit slow, especially with guys like, you got Devlin, DeFrancesco, and Romain Grosjean down at the bottom of the charts, and I think for a while there were some other Andretti cars in there. Actually, no, I don't think there were. Kyle Kirkwood also in 25th. But Colton Herta was 6th and Marco Andretti was 10th. So I think there's kind of two very separate groups. There's the Andretti group right near the bottom, and then Herta and Marco Andretti. Andretti was up there for a while, and I think he had set a few pretty fast times. Herta, his time was pretty well near the end, so I don't even know how to judge that. And also, these are, just fastest overall times, which don't really have any application, because you can set up a toe lap to just be like I'm going to go for the top of the board, and it doesn't really indicate anything. I mean, it indicates how well your car does, 5 to 15 car lengths behind someone, but that's not really a position you'll ever end up in the race, other than a couple of very odd situations. So, we're talking about Ilott earlier. The last thing I want to talk about, Agustin Canapino. He was P22 at one point, not too long before the end of the practice. He was P10, and his P22 lap, 225.427, was set. It was probably like 4:35, somewhere in that time frame. So on the earlier end of the fast, happy hour and a half, whatever you want to call it, type times. So for a while, I mean, he was hanging pretty well down near the bottom, but again, ahead of Ilott pretty much the entire time. Augustin Canapino, despite the fact that, I mean, it's his first time in Indy, and they had made a comment on the broadcast, he's still learning English. Like, the situation that Augustin's in, where he, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize if I'm not, but he's doing quite well. 22nd in his first practice at Indy. Obviously, I think it's still going to be a thing to watch throughout the rest of this week. But good signs from the 78 car and Hunkas Hollinger with the first day. And, as he gets more comfortable with this, because I believe his only running at Indy ever has been just the ROP, because the second day of testing got rained out. And again, his fastest time was pretty well near the end of the day. So once he really got adjusted to running in traffic with people, and earlier on, it was like he'd hit pretty quick speeds at the end of straightaways, and then he'd have to really back off. And I think the more confident he got with the car, it was very obvious that he was putting up some pretty good times. So Augustin Canapino is impressing me right now. I think there's a bit of a kind of lower on down the order storyline, but I think it is a cool storyline to follow. I might comment on that later on this week, which, by the way, I'm only going to be actually able to do a video for Wednesday, Thursday, and then qualifying week, just as a whole, because I have a bunch of crap going on this week, so I will be gone the entire weekend, so I'll try to get a video out on that probably sometime Monday, and that might even end up becoming either condensed into or just two separate videos on the same day for the Monday practice that they're doing this year. Obviously, be able to do Fast Friday, or not Fast Friday, Carb Day, yeah. Carb Day stuff, and then the 500, I'm going to be there, so coverage from that. But yeah, that's my schedule, so I'm not going to be able to do stuff this weekend, which I'm bummed about. I mean, I might be able to, I don't know, just make some general comments about it in other places, but I'm not going to be able to make full videos about it, which, is a thing. But that's about it. Day one, the Ganassi cars are fast. That's about the only storyline I can take from this. And the Carpenter cars are fast in qualifying, and the grass is green. So, yeah, that's day one at Indy. Pretty exciting day. Just, I'm happy to see cars back at IMS. I haven't been watching as much IndyCar recently because I've had other life things going on that I might end up talking about a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. But, yeah, I'm excited to be able to kind of, follow this stuff again. And I don't know if I'll end up making videos for this past Indy. I don't know if it'll work out well to do it, but I hope so. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll have another video out tomorrow, hopefully around the same time. What is it, 7:05 now? I'll probably get this out around 8. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all later. Bye. By the way, the production value on these videos, I acknowledge that it might be a little bit low. I think there were some other things I was trying during some videos last year. I haven't had as much time to mess around with this because this kind of snuck up on me. I mean, I was very aware of the practice schedule. I kind of didn't think about the fact that I was going to make videos for this. It was a bit of a last-minute decision for me. So, yeah, hopefully by tomorrow, maybe, surely by Monday, I'll be able to have some more in-depth stuff worked out, but just general things to make video quality a little bit higher. I think, I know I said my kind of schedule that I'm planning for. I think I might also do like a starting grid video whenever that becomes a thing. So yeah, that's about all I have. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I've already said this. Bye.